obsessive in terms of ambition. There's that fine line between self-belief and arrogance. I had to believe in myself 100% more than anyone else believed in me. It was incredible, life-changing, and I loved every moment of it, but it's hard. Some people put that jersey on and it feels quite heavy, the burden of the legacy, the burden of the expectation. It was never 15 All Blacks performing the haka on that particular day, but all the men who had worn that black jersey prior to us. When we're connected as a nation behind rugby, it's 5-6 million people doing the haka. So in my mind, we never lose those odds. 6 million v 15, we're always going to win.
My name is Kyla Colbin. You're listening to my interview with Ian Jones, and this is the Hunger and Heart Podcast. Enjoy the show. Hello, my name is Kyla Colbin, and welcome to episode 19 of Hunger and Heart, a podcast on the intersection of wild ambition and fierce compassion. We were in the press yesterday with the extremely exciting announcement that BOMA has partnered with the U.S. Soccer Foundation to create 3 modules as part of their wider Yes Coach initiative to upskill 100,000 coach mentors across the United States by 2030. The U.S. Soccer Foundation team are doing extraordinary work that changes lives, it changes trajectories for young people in predominantly underserved communities, and it is such a privilege to work with them. My guest today is Ian Jones. Ian is one of New Zealand's most capped locks. He played 79 tests for the All Blacks. He's known as Kamo, or the Kamo Kid, because he grew up in Kamo. He heads the All Blacks experience in Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland, and he is just delightful. What a fun, uplifting person to talk to. In this conversation, we talk about what it takes to be an All Black, what his most impactful coaches had in common, and what the haka really means. So here you are, my conversation with Ian Jones. What is your experience with wild ambition and fierce compassion?
Well, thank you very much, firstly, for having me on the podcast. It's wonderful sometimes to be able to sit back and reflect, look at your timeline, look at your career, answer questions such as this, which are deep and a wonderful opening question. So thank you for the opportunity, firstly. Obsessive, I'd say, in terms of ambition. Not sure so much about the fierce compassion, getting more and more of that, when you become a father, B, often when you retire and kind of look back and reflect on your career. But I know during the time of my career, and that was some time ago now, to be fair, that while ambition was to be so driven to the point of being, I guess, sometimes quite selfish. There's that fine line, isn't there, between kind of self-belief and arrogance that we all have to kind of walk. But yeah, to achieve what I wanted to achieve in a combat sport where I wasn't really ever built for it when you look at me, you had to be so ambitious, you had to believe in yourself, or I had to believe in myself 100% more than anyone else kind of believed in me. So there was the ambition part. In terms of the compassion, well, I'm not sure if I had it when I was a player, to be absolutely honest with you. But certainly as I reflect and grow, which is a good thing for all of us, certainly developed it, which has been certainly good for my own development anyhow.
Amazing. So first of all, I will say that this theme of obsessiveness, to the point of selfishness, is a theme that's come through over and over again. We heard it from Sir Graham Henry or Ted. We heard it from Sir John Kerwin. We heard it from Shea McAleese, who's a hockey player. And one of the things that I'm starting to put together just now as I listen to you is this idea that when you're the player, you have to have this level of obsession or you're not going to achieve at that level that you want to achieve. And one of the things I'm curious about is, as a player, What was your relationship with fierce compassion as coming from your coaches?
Yeah, good question. But I actually don't think the wild ambition actually just was limited to me anyway. In a playing sense, it was some time ago. But post um, playing, I'm a goal setter, so I've been doing a lot of endurance sports, other activities. So you have to be quite ambitious and driven and disciplined, and all of those other key elements to achieve what you wanted to achieve. Maybe post career, not so much in a competitive sense, but in a completion sense, you still want to do the best you absolutely can. But in terms of compassion, um, from a playing sense, once I was lucky enough to play over quite a long career with through different timelines, I guess. When I first became an All Black, I was a young man in a really well-established team with an iconic coach, RIP, and Grizz Wiley, who was, I guess he had his absolute standards that he believed in. You fitted in those standards, and we were in a time, and there's nothing wrong with this time, of being directed how you want to play. And I love that. The boundaries, black and white, which was what Grizz Wiley was very much about, but also with a lot of belief in you. That's what I loved so much about Grizz. He picked me as a young man, hadn't played for any other New Zealand team up until playing for the All Blacks. In fact, the first time I ever got to physically watch the All Blacks, I was playing for them, which is crazy in today's world. But whilst Grizz certainly had an approach, he also allowed me to be me. And I really loved that about him. Then I had another coach in Laurie Mains, once more very black and white. But what I really loved about Laurie Mains, at the highest level, he coached me. He taught me what he wanted from me as an athlete. And just because you're an All Blacks or an elite sportsman, and you shouldn't assume we know everything or know the way the coach wants you to play or your role within that team. And that was really important to me in the structure, to know what he wanted from me. And then I was a lock forward, so I had a partnership with whoever it may be, most of the time a guy called Robin Brook, how we wanted to work as a pair. And that was really important as well. And my last coach within the All Blacks was a guy called John Hart. And John Hart was incredibly disciplined, incredibly knowledgeable about the world, and how he really helped me, but helped the All Blacks as well. And we should be thankful to John Hart every day, was that we just entered a new era, which was called professionalism. And there was a lot of outside distractions that we as rugby players hadn't encountered, but John Hart as a corporate businessman had encountered. So really, I guess the easiest way for me, when I reflect and sum it up, and pre-professionalism, the pie was split between family, work, and rugby. Well, when the game went professional, the pie didn't get any bigger, but the slices got a lot smaller. So family was really important, rugby was really important, work was your training, but also your rehab and your media and your lawyers and accountants and sponsors and all these other people. So John Hart was really amazing at navigating that, or helping us navigate that.
Thank you so much for that. I have so many questions. I'm going to come back to lots of it. I'm going to come back to professionalism. I'm going to come back to this playing as a team. My first question, though, is you described Grizz and Laurie as being quite black and white, as being quite directive. Did you feel that they cared about you?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. If they pick you, they care. They love you. They really do. And whilst I really enjoyed their approach, because it gave me these boundaries and I knew exactly what they wanted from me. John Hart was the same. John Hart was an amazing wordsmith who absolutely painted this incredible picture, so you knew your role within the team. But understanding what they want from you and how you deliver it for them was really important to me. And then that became how I did that in partnership with, once again, my locking partner, Robin Brooke, most of the time, and how we worked as a combination. And that became really, really important to understand each other's roles within this little partnership. And then that clearly goes to, for us as a rugby sense, the type 5, how we work together to get the best out of each other, and that rolls to the team. So all those steps, the coach absolutely, and Grizz and Laurie and John Hart gave you those directives. And me as an athlete, once I had those boundaries, once I had that picture, I knew where I was going because, for me, it's the same. They were kind of like goals, but just I had a target to work towards. I had a direction, and that was important.
I love this so much because one of the things that I notice in my work is how often we tend to conflate two ideas that maybe seem similar but are not the same at all. And my observation is that one of the things that can get conflated is I have a black and white, no nonsense, high standards, demanding style with I am not a caring leader. And what I've just heard from you is that actually both of these things were absolutely true of the three coaches that you just described.
Yep, absolutely they were. And I'll give you, I guess, an example of exactly that and how it can cloud the brain. And certainly not disrespecting both coaches, on this occasion, John Hart and Grizz Wiley, who are co-coaches in our 91 campaign at the Rugby World Cup. And they had compassion, they had direction, they had a great vision, and we absolutely bought in to all of that. I guess when we reflect, and reflection is really, really important, certainly is to me, when we reflect on that campaign, the messaging, whilst it was the same, it was very, very different. And when you have these differences, you have confusion. And often we would have a real strong, powerful message and game plan set by Grizz Wiley on one day, which he absolutely bought into, and a similar game plan and vision and style from John Hart the next day, but spoken differently. And that then led to, for me anyway, when I reflect, confusion, which is why words really matter, clarity really matters, and unity really matters. So that's kind of what I learnt from that period in terms of being really clear and decisive in what you want from your charge, your team.
I am so fascinated by this. I've been in organizations on boards where we've looked at or even implemented co-CEO positions, and those structures end up, in my experience, being incredibly challenging for exactly the reason that you're describing. And one of the things that I think we often have to grapple with is our relationship with power and our willingness to go, actually, this is the direction that we're heading in. This is I'm going to give you this clarity. And that relationship with power doesn't mean I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to care about you. I'm not going to be open to feedback. I'm not going to continue to learn and grow. It means as a leader being willing at the appropriate time to go, yep, this is the direction we're heading in.
Yeah, well, messaging is so important, isn't it? Which is why storytelling is so important. And when you storytell, you connect. And your story will connect with different people in that audience, and they'll resonate with you, which is, I think, in reflection, which is so important from that 91 campaign. And we haven't done this in New Zealand post that. We've always had a head coach, not co-coaches. So we've learnt from that, which was a wonderful takeaway from the failings of the 91 Rugby World Cup, to have a head coach setting the umbrella, setting the framework, and I guess selling his vision to his players. So key learning,
yeah, of course,
key takeaway, good success.
And of course, our current head coach of the All Blacks is a renowned storyteller. I want to come back to John Hart, and you described the shift into professionalism. You'd obviously been playing for the All Blacks for some time by the time rugby turned professional. What was that shift like for you? What was the experience like? And you mentioned the pie, the slices getting thinner. Did it change your relationship with the game and your enjoyment of the craft?
Didn't change my enjoyment of the game whatsoever, even up until, remember, what is professionalism? It's a state of mind. It was never for me the financial rewards that you get from professionalism. And right up until 1996, and we have been the standard setters of this for many, many years in New Zealand rugby, we had an absolute professional attitude to rugby. And that's really what it comes down to for me, the attitude that you bring to our craft, to the game of rugby. And I was lucky enough to go into a very successful team in 1989, most of them Rugby World Cup winners from 87, who had, without question, a professional mindset. Knew how to prepare, knew how to play, knew how to reflect, and knew how to take time away from the game. And all those kind of key elements we incorporated into the professional game where, yes, you had more time, yes, there was more demands on your time, but to me it was still about the attitude that you brought to that sport. So I didn't see a major change from that attitude point of it, but we did need some guidance, without question, about the contractual side of it. What is your obligations now? Maybe prior to 1996 and certainly in today's world, where there's more options out there for our the stakeholders, we never really had to sell the game. All of a sudden we were in entertainment. There's more, sports on TV. You had to start selling the game, and so that was a shift, a little bit, some obligations to some of the partners, some of the sponsors, but with the background, the assistance to John Hart, and the ability to speak and to network, that shift actually had some benefits to it as well. Employment, relationships, care from the partners. So if you're willing to work and be open to opportunities, they were certainly there.
Amazing. I'm still coming back to that very first chunk of commentary you gave, and I've got a bunch of different angles I want to dig into on that. One of the other things you mentioned right at the beginning was your level of ambition. And now that you're not an All Black, you do full Ironmans, you do a 100-kilometer swim. I did a whole bunch of stalking of you in prep for this conversation, by the way. And one of the things I heard you say in the conversations that I listened to was that being an All Black was way harder than these massively challenging endurance events that you're doing now. And what I heard you describe, the reason for that is because there were consequences every day. And I've heard you talk a fair bit about consequences. And so my question is, can you help me understand, when you say consequences, what does that mean? What are the consequences, and how did that affect you or shape your approach?
Yep, great question. And I say that with full respect to what I'm doing now, but absolute respect for representing New Zealand in the black jersey. There is a consequence if you don't turn up with the right attitude, the right mindset, and want to be better than you are the day before. The consequences potentially are an All Black loss. And that really is the consequence. Whilst now as a weekend warrior, I love doing Ironman events, I love challenging my events. If I decide to pull out of an Ironman or don't want to train today or don't complete whatever little mission I have, there are no consequences. It's just me. Yes, I'll be disappointed, and yes, I haven't achieved a goal, but really I haven't lost anything like an All Black test match. So they're the consequences that I talk about, which is a lot harder playing for the All Blacks, a lot harder representing New Zealand, the legacy of that jersey, the expectation of that jersey, but also the expectation you put on yourself to wear that incredible jersey and turn up every day. So, yep, I needed to get up and train every day. I needed that structure and be really driven to make sure I'd done everything I had to do to make sure I was fully prepared for game day. There aren't those consequences personally to me when I'm just doing things now for fun.
Can I reflect back the way that's landing for me and see if I've understood it? Because I heard a couple of different things in there. The first thing I heard was a material difference between I'm doing this for fun and as an individual. And I'm doing this because there are other people involved. So there's a piece there of like, A, I'm doing this for fun, and B, I'm doing this as an individual. And if I don't get up to train for my Ironman, or if I don't show up on race day, I'm not letting anyone else down. It's just me. And then the second thing I heard in there was the legacy, the representing the nation, the weight of the jersey. And so there's a piece there that I'm hearing, and I want to test my understanding to see if I've got it right. There's a piece there that I'm hearing about the appreciation for the kind of weight or mana of what you're doing when you're playing for the All Blacks. Have I understood your
Yeah, you
approach
absolutely
to
have.
this?
That team aspect is huge to me. The legacy of that jersey was huge to me. What people have done before to keep that mana going. You don't own that jersey, right? I never kind of sensed you own that jersey, but you had it for a short period of time where you could put your own mana, your own legacy on that jersey, and that became really important to me to wear it. The ambition to wear it well. As I said at the start, I was come from a swimming background actually, so goal setting is really important to me. To wear the All Black jersey was a real achievable goal. But one of the things I think which is really important about goal setting is that whilst you need to celebrate that goal, which is amazing because they're really hard to achieve, you have to reset that goal. So I had a goal of being an All Black, achieved that. Then I reset that and had a goal of being a Test All Black, achieved that. Then had a goal of being a 10 Test All Black, achieved that. But kept resetting those goals all the time, which was really important. Once again, I look back and reflect, and look, I certainly wasn't the best athlete out there whatsoever, but I had a lot of my colleagues had set the goal of becoming an All Black, celebrated that success, which they should do, but didn't reset to becoming a 10 Test All Black or a great All Black, and never had the longevity in the jersey that maybe I ended up having. So they were really important to me in that team sense, and the legacy of that jersey became really important. To get back to a question, some people put that jersey on, as you know, and it fits. It actually feels like a Superman cape, and they're ready for that, and they're ready to go. But others, and maybe I fit in this camp as well, you put that jersey on and it feels quite heavy as well. The burden of the legacy, the burden of the expectation. So you have to do everything in your power, all those steps during the week to make sure you felt comfortable, or I felt comfortable on game day to play. And that's why that obsession that we talked about right at the start became something I had to do Monday through to Saturday to make sure all of those little steps were in place so I was comfortable and ready to play on Saturday.
Amazing. What I'm hearing, what I heard there is this two ideas I want to highlight from what I just heard. One is this idea of I don't own this jersey, I steward it from the previous player to the next one. I'm the bridge in between. And the second thing is I'm earning this jersey every day by the way that I show up, by the way that I prepare, by the way that I perform. You used the phrase, you said that being an All Black was an achievable goal, which for many people listening are probably thinking like, achievable, not for me. My question is that you currently are general manager of the All Blacks experience. And in one of the kind of promo pieces for the All Blacks experience, I saw a line that said, we can help, it lets you meaning the public, it lets you experience whether you have what it takes to wear the jersey. And so my question is, other than the obvious technical skills and physical stamina, what do you believe it takes to be an All Black?
100% belief in yourself. You absolutely need to believe and commit to yourself. There are no silver bullets, I'm afraid. So hard work above everything, I guess, is important. And then I'd probably bring it down to things that are really important to me is to set yourself those little goals along the way, to play for your first 15, to play for your club premiership team, to play for your province, to play for Super Rugby. And once you, to me anyway, goal setting, I keep talking about, are really important because once you write down those goals, they do become achievable. And the thing to me, I want to talk about goal setting, and this can be a classic Kiwi trait, to keep them to yourself. And then if no one else knows about them and you fail, well, you haven't lost. But I love, and I used to say this to my family as well, I'd tell them a goal of becoming an All Black. And when you share that to me, you become accountable to everyone around you. They're your support network. They want it as much as you want it. But when you share your goals, whilst you become accountable, you also have an amazing support network to keep you accountable, or someone may have been an All Black already in that friend group, and they could help you achieve that goal. And they'll never help you if they didn't know. So goal setting was really important to me. And then structure, building a structure. How am I actually going to do that? And for me, I was never going to be the biggest, fastest, fittest in the world. So what did I need to be? I need to be aerobically the fittest I could ever be. I needed to do things other locks at that time kind of weren't doing. So what was my point of difference? And that structure and written down structure allowed me to have that guidance, that single focus to become that. So that's how they become an All Black, I think, to follow some of these lines. Perseverance, of course, because nothing happens overnight and nothing's easy as well. But I also had this belief that I use in Ironman or endurance sports I do today, but also when I was training. Don't give quitting a voice. It's so easy to quit, to tell yourself it's not your time, or you're not good enough to make it, or, whatever that negative saying is. So I never tried to give that any room in my head. But that's where that, I guess, self-belief and arrogance piece may come into play here. And then just be consistent, turn up every day. And the last element I now have, but I probably didn't have when I was playing, and this is a reflection, I probably wish I did more, but I knew at the time I needed what I needed to become an All Black, but enjoyment was probably something when I reflect, I probably wished I'd enjoyed some of those moments kind of more than I did, because I was so obsessed of being in the team, and then being in the team the next week and getting better the next day. All of those things become obsessive. And when I look back now, and I can do this when you reflect so many years ago, wish I enjoyed some of those moments a bit more.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel pumped to go out and smash some goals. I will just say, you mentioned something that for me, I'm originally from the States. You might be able to hear that still in my voice. Grew up in New York City, but I've been here in Aotearoa, New Zealand for 20 years now. And in the States, it would be pretty unusual to say, oh, well, you should tell your friends because maybe one of them, plays for the Miami Dolphins or the Golden State Warriors or whatever. But of course, here in Aotearoa, tell your friends, maybe one of them does play for the All Blacks or has a connection. You, of course, grew up on a very particular street. Who is Brian Monsell and why is he important?
Oh, yeah, he's Mr. Monsell. Brian Monsell is my neighbour. The street you're talking about is in Kamo, so it's called Fisher Terrace. Just a normal, typical new subdivision. So parents moved in there, their first home, as were the families around there. And Mr. Monsell, Brian Monsell, our neighbour on the right-hand side, was a former New Zealand hockey rep, former New Zealand hockey coach. But really in the context of myself and my own learnings and development, he was the fitness coach to the 1976 hockey team, and we won gold at the Olympics. He's also a disciple of Arthur Lydiard, so knew a lot about fartlek training and speed play and the aerobic base that we all needed to become great athletes. And Mr. Mansell talked about that aerobic base in terms of our skill development. The fitter we were, the more aware we were always going to be, the longer we'd be able to stay in the game and keep our skill level really high. So that was really important in an early development for the street. My neighbour on the left-hand side was a boy, friend, called Blythe Tate. Blythe is a former Olympic gold medal equestrian rider, world champion equestrian rider, and grew up with the same ethos of work hard, really, to get the rewards. Brian Young, former black cap, also in the same street, work ethic, skill level, but big aerobic base. And another lady called Angela Brackenbridge, played table tennis for New Zealand for 10 years, same mindset, same beginnings, same structure about that aerobic base was really important. We had a doctor up the road who kept us out there. My mother was a nurse, and any little injuries we were kind of pushed back out there to just enjoy, but to work on those, that aerobic base, I think, which has really set us up for success.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. 4 of you, same generation, kids at the same time, same street, end up growing up to represent New Zealand in your various sports.
Yeah, and for all of us, a long chunk of time. Yeah, so resilience, aerobic base. I guess when we all look back and we enjoyed every moment of it, but maybe at the time we didn't enjoy it. We didn't get to enjoy it as much as we should have. But yeah, that's exactly right.
How did Brian Mansell end up? Like, what? I understand that he trained with Arthur Lydiard. I understand that he was strength and conditioning coach. I understand he had this experience about aerobics. Did he basically just go, "I'll help you out"?
Hey, he was.
Is that pretty much how that
Yeah,
worked?
he was my parents' friends. They were neighbours. He was just there, and there was a bunch of kids running around on the streets, and he maybe put some little structure to our play. But the fartlet running, the speed play, the running between lampposts, the aerobic base that he installed in us back then, when we didn't know what it was about, I guess, but it certainly helped us form that base and form the aerobic base that we set up very, very early, and it's helped us all out.
I love this so much. There's a guy he's not a sportsman, he's a writer. His name is Dave Eggers, and he's got he writes books, and he's got a magazine, a quarterly magazine that comes out 2 or 3 times a year. He's kind of irreverent. And he set up a storefront out front of where the offices to the magazine were. And the storefront was a pirate supply store. So you could come in, you could buy covers for your hook for nighttime, and you could buy eye patches, different ones for fancy occasions, etc. So it's kind of like this joke store. But really what it was a place where kids could come after school, and they could come and hang out with the folks who were working on the magazine. They could learn about how magazines get put together, etc. And the kids came because the pirate store was cool, and then they had to go through this cool pirate store to get to this magazine office and learn about how magazines get put together. And one of the phrases that he uses when he talks about this is that we often think as adults that we have to have answers in order to be useful to young people. And the phrase that he used that has just stayed in my heart for years now is, just the white light of your attention is a gift to children.
Yeah, and we don't always have to be perfect either, do we? And maybe that was...
When are we ever?
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of some of the obsessions we had, always trying to be perfect, always making sure your teammates around you were perfect. And when I look back on my time, and that obsession comes in again, maybe we didn't always have to think exactly the same. We didn't always have to act exactly the same. But if the common goal was the same, the path to that goal can be different. And those differences actually become a real superpower for a team. You talked about goal setting in America as opposed to goal setting in New Zealand, where you may know people It's actually a real superpower, I believe, of New Zealand, our small size, because we can almost talk to everyone, directly have a conversation like this with a man on the street. And that accessibility of our star players to be part of the community, contribute to a community, grow within that community, really brings us strength. And certainly when I look back and think we shouldn't always be obsessed about perfection. Being there, being present, being kind of into it, and whether it's a right or wrong call actually doesn't matter when I look back. As long as everyone's doing the same thing, well, then it's a good thing.
I want to stick with this idea of obsession and goal setting. And you mentioned, you had this level of obsession when you're playing for the All Blacks, and now you're doing these extreme endurance events, but the consequences are different. Has there been a shift in your personal kind of fire energy in terms of the ambition and the goals that you set? Or do you feel like, actually, I'm just as driven as I always was. The consequences are not as severe in terms of public scrutiny or the mana of the All Blacks jersey or the letting my teammates down. But me, in terms of how I show up, I'm just as hungry as I've always been.
No, I've changed drastically, I think, for a good thing as well. We all change as we get older. I mean, getting married, having kids, just being able to reflect, I think makes it a lot easier to change. So, yes, whilst I have an obsession to do really well and want to do the best you can, I'm not sure. I think I enjoy the moment a lot better now. Don't get hung up on all the kind of little details that will make you achieve. And yes, while goal setting is still really important, and the pathway and the steps to that goal are still really important, that you can tick off to achieve ultimately what you set out to achieve. I just think I'm a lot more relaxed about it nowadays. I know the consequences aren't half as demanding, really. Playing for the All Blacks was amazing. It was incredible, life-changing, and I loved every moment of it. But it's hard playing for the All Blacks, and I wanted that success all the time playing for the All Blacks. And you fight really hard to stay in that team, and I love that team like the bottom of my heart. The incredible things, not just for me, but my family. I think that's one of the real, one of the real strengths of the All Blacks and New Zealand rugby is it's not just you that becomes an All Black, it's your family that also becomes an All Black. And I love that strength, what it certainly did to me, or for me anyhow. But no, whilst competitive, I'm not half, to be honest with you, competitive as I used to be. I don't think I get as anxious. When I look back, I probably got, and I needed to be like this to perform to the level I wanted to perform to, which is another reflection piece. Was probably a lot, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, quite anxious leading up to the games. Just wanted it to go well and be right and get the desired outcome we want. I know I'm a lot more relaxed doing things nowadays. I know I'm going to do it because my mind knows I've done Ironman, I've done marathons, I've done lots of swimming, so I don't have that stress on a start line. When your mind knows you can do something, that anxiety's taken away. It is for me anyway. And I actually enjoy events. I enjoy the buzz of a pre-event where everyone, regardless of your level, doing it for the first time or the 100th time, everyone is nervous. Some people show it in different ways, but everyone's a little anxious, but they're ready to go. And I love the endorphins of a post-event when people have achieved something incredible. And I love that buzz, which is why I love taking part in events.
It's interesting. So what I've just heard you say is the buzz of the people around you at the beginning with the nervous energy and the people around you at the end when everyone's pumped that they've done it. For me, events, the thing I love about events is that they serve what I would describe as a force function of I've got this thing coming up and therefore I must prepare and therefore I'm going to put more effort in than I otherwise would because there's this thing that I have committed to that I'm going to respond to. Is that at all a factor for you, or are you so internally driven that the force function is kind of secondary to the experience of being around all those other amazing people?
No, that's a great question, and when I reflect back, it's why I kind of got into events. Actually, loved rugby, involved in rugby, pretty much all my life, and rugby had these incredible structures. When I reflect back, I needed, but as I came towards the end of my rugby career, I started dreaming, I guess when I look back now, on what I thought was going to be this normal life I was about to lead. I was in England for a few years. Coming home, it was going to be an amazing life where I didn't have to train, could wear what I liked, and life was going to be normal. And came back home, and my wife took about 2 weeks to realise this in me. It took me about 6 months. But I don't think I had a great 6 months post my rugby career. And what I learnt from that is my normal is structure. My normal is routine. My normal is working towards a target. So what I learnt from that is none of us, and this is me really, should chase other people's normal. My normal was structure, routine, goal setting. So once after 6 months post-rugby, where I started to get aches and niggles and probably not that good to be around, and started to, which I did, sign up for events to have a purpose, then I had structure, I had consistency, I had some perseverance, I had to build a plan. That's my normal. And when I had that in my life, I had balance. When I had balance in my life, I had direction. And with direction, I had this amazing focus, and everything else around me was better. So that was my normal. And that was the lesson there post-career.
That is so interesting. I love that line, don't chase someone else's normal. And I want to jump on that word balance. I feel a lot of people would imagine doing a full Ironman for many people would not be conducive to balance. How do you think about balance, and what's your relationship with balance?
Yeah, balance is absolutely really important to me. It's everything, actually, to me. And when I'm out of balance, out of kilter, my life is out of kilter as well. So when I look at balance, I look at all the buckets kind of being even, right? My family, which is really, really important to me. But physical training is really important to me, both for the mental and physical benefits of it. My work is really important to me. My community work is really important. And my friends are really important. When those kind of 5 buckets are even, my life is in balance and my life is great. The direction's there. I feel good about all of those aspects, and I don't have any of those stresses in the world. And this has happened on numerous occasions, and training for endurance events can tip that balance. When I'm too obsessed on my physical fitness or too obsessed on the working hours I'm doing, something has to give, which is why that balance to me has to come back into kilter. A lot better as I get older, a lot better, with relationship with my family to see those signs and to understand those signs. But balance to me, personally anyway, is everything.
What I'm hearing in there is it's about understanding what is important to you and what you need in what kind of quantities or allocations in order to be able to thrive.
How you prioritise things really is really important. And we all have the time. There's 24 hours in a day, so there's always plenty of time. It's how you prioritise your time within that structure of a day to get the balance for me. So once again, I'm pretty obsessive about goal setting or writing down structure, which is really important. And personally, the way I do that is just to write it down, to train between, let's say, 6 and 8. Go have breakfast with the family 8 till 10, work 10 till 12, whatever it is. It just gives me a little bit of a direction and a plan. Also learned over the years that all plans need to be flexible, and all plans go out the window really, really quickly. But if you have that base structure to start with, you can adapt to that plan. So I don't get too obsessed with the plan, but I certainly have a plan and direction to start with. And the other thing I find really important to me, and this is maybe coming from a team background, a time and a place is really important to me. I love training with people. I love the energy of people, but I also like the commitment of training with people. When I commit to, let's say, go for a run at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, I've made a commitment not only to myself, but to my friends and colleagues, which means I turn up at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning knowing they'll be the same. So that's really important to me. When I'm not around people to train with, I'll still write down 10 a.m. run. I've made that commitment, because if you don't, and have, well, for me anyhow, if you say you're going to go for a run at 10 o'clock, something will come up and it's 10:30, the phone will ring and it's 11 o'clock. Oh, it's too late now, I'll do it tomorrow.
I love that. I am fully a social athlete. I definitely perform way better when I have other people around. And just this morning, of course, we've got my colleague Hannah Hudson on the call. There are a few of us in the office who have a little group we call the accountability workouters. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning, either we're working out together or we're sharing with each other what we're going to be doing so that we can make sure to hold ourselves and each other to account. You mentioned in there I also want to touch on, sorry, your comment about plans having to be flexible and they can go out the window. Of course, the great philosopher Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until he gets punched in the face. And I carry that in my mind often as well. You mentioned about those 5 buckets. One of the 5 buckets was your community work. Can you tell me about Eddie's Meals? What is it?
Yep, Eddie's Meals is a community food kitchen. My family and I, but more importantly, Janine, my beautiful wife, set up 6 years ago now. And the reason we set it up is we have a blessed life. We always have a roof over our heads. Our kids have always had a meal and are quite privileged, really. And we just had the opportunity and the ability to start a community food kitchen. Janine is a nurse, so she sees loneliness every day. And loneliness is absolutely a killer within our communities. So, yeah, my family and I, and with a lot of amazing volunteers, our friends, opened the doors. Pre-COVID, we did it weekly. Post-COVID, it's now the first Friday of every month. We open the doors to a community food kitchen. Our friends, it's given them an outlet to contribute to their community. And everyone wants to help, I often find. Not everyone knows where or how to help. So Eddie's Meals has given, I guess, that opportunity for our friends to bring along a meal. But more importantly, the meal's the hook. More important is to spend time with people in our community, to talk about their lives, to show interest in what they are doing, to allow them to share their journey with us, but also allow my kids, but my kids' friends as well, to be part of the community they grow up in. So yeah, it's so joyful, it's beautiful, it's incredible the people that come along, open our doors to anyone. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's something that we've prioritised and we get, and the volunteers that come along get so much out of it. And everyone who volunteers out there will know the volunteer gets as much out of it as the people coming along, and that's how we feel.
Where does the name come from? Who's Eddie?
Nothing. We, for about 22 years, I'm part of a swim group started by a guy called Ed Timmings, called Eddie's Eels. We do a lot of cycling together, so that's Eddie's Wheels. We also have a yearly fishing contest called Eddie's Reels. So it's just a name called Eddie's Meals. Yeah, it's only a name.
Oh my gosh, it's making me think of your new shoe company called Eddie's Heels.
Well, yes. Funny enough, we've done that, and given away a lot of rugby boots and given a lot away clothing called Eddie's Heels. Exactly right. So well done you.
Amazing. I love your acknowledgement. A couple of things that I want to highlight of what you've just shared. One is the acknowledgement that as volunteers, when we contribute to things, we benefit so much as the recipients of whatever we're contributing. The gift of that. And then I also heard your self-awareness of the privilege that your family enjoys and that your children enjoy. And I want to tie that back to the comment about balance, and that we do all have the same 24 hours. And we have different obligations. Some people have, 4 kids. Some people have to work 3 jobs, and this appreciation that I've heard you share over and over again on this conversation of everybody is different. You've said a number of things where you've gone, I like to do it this way. And then you said, for me, that's how I like it, right? This appreciation that everybody is different. And so I just want to make sure those folks listening who are thinking about balance in their own lives, that sometimes things are shitty.
Yeah, and thank you for picking that up too. I appreciate that. And I mean, I can only ever speak on my own behalf and my own journey. But the thing we said at the start about storytelling, which is really important for others to be able to share their stories as well, because storytelling to me, when you share your story, you resonate with others out there, and people who think they're the only ones with the 4 kids or the 3 jobs or that shitty life at that point in time, they'll hear other people and they'll see themselves or hear themselves in that story. And all of a sudden they have a community. All of a sudden they have someone that they possibly can reach out to. And I really encourage people to reach out to anyone out there, because when you reach out, you'll have an amazing support network. People want to help. New Zealanders want to help each other. So taking that first step of reaching out, taking that first step of acknowledging is hard. Like, it's really, really hard. And I admire these people so much to walk in to a community food kitchen. Boy, it takes a lot of pride, takes a lot of courage to do that. And so when families do, you just accept them for who they are and what brought them there on that particular time. And when you hear their story or share your story, others share those. I love the interaction you have. My wife's taught me that so much about empathy. I certainly don't think I had empathy when I was a young athlete. And what I love, the other message I want to get out there, because I spend a lot of time with youth, and the other message I really want to say very strongly to New Zealand is that we're in such good hands in this country. The youth of today, and once more the ones I spend time with, are so much more empathetic than I ever were, so much more inclusive than I ever were. Yes, we can teach them resilience. We can teach them perseverance. Boy, they can teach us so much as well. And we have some incredible young New Zealanders. I just get people to look at their own kids or their own kids' friends. And when we start talking about kids, I talk about New Zealand's kids, never my own kids. And we have amazing young New Zealanders out there who may well change the world. And that's an amazing thing. So I'm really encouraged by the future of New Zealand. I think what everyone needs, certainly I had that from the 3 coaches I talked about at the start, everyone needs to feel supported, feel backed, and once people feel supported, they're off and running.
It's so beautiful what I'm hearing you say, and it's so aligned to the whole kaupapa, to the whole premise of this podcast, which is that you felt supported and cared for and backed and encouraged by Mr. Mansell, by your 3 coaches, by the folks around you. And so even though you, looking back at your own life, didn't perceive yourself as particularly empathetic back in the day or particularly compassionate back in the day, you had that environment, those folks around you who showed you that care and that love and that belief. And that was what allowed you to achieve the things that you've achieved.
Yeah, and also come from a very supportive family who had all of that. Mother also a nurse, so very empathetic lady. Father really loves sports, but a real hard worker. That really just taught us that you have to work for everything, and the harder you work, the more time you put into something, the more reward you'll get out of it. And two brothers who are absolute number one support network. So when you have that amazing framework around you, and we have that in New Zealand sport, once again a real superpower, isn't it, of a small country. I come from a rugby background, but any young aspiring rugby players out there, it's not just a rugby support network that will look after you, it's your community, it's your school, it's your club, it's your friend group or your parents' friend groups. They're the ones that will really support and back you. And yep, you need to back yourself. Please do that. But just remember, all of those people are your number one supporters. And they will enjoy the journey as much as you.
I did catch it correctly that your mother and your wife, both nurses.
Yeah, both incredibly
Did you work that?
beautiful people. Yeah, they're incredible. Independent, strong women is what they are.
Amazing. You mentioned your children and your story, and you can only tell your story. You whakapapa Māori, ngai tahu kāti huirapa ki Puketeraki. My understanding is you're newer to the journey of re-engaging with your whakapapa. Yes. What's that journey been like? What's it meant for you?
It's been amazing for not just me, but for my family. Grew up in an era, like I'm 58 years of age, and a lot of New Zealanders will understand this. Never discouraged to understand our Māori whakapapa, but also never encouraged in that environment from my mother's side. But once again, getting back to my kids and this young generation, all started within our family, from my kids' connection to te reo, to the culture, to their whakapapa, and with their passion for te reo started with a really important guy in our life called Honi Hiki Rankin, te reo teacher at the kids' school, Rosmini, who got them engaged firstly in kapa haka, wakarama, and then the kaupapa of their whakapapa. Their passion went from the bottom up through me to my mother, to our wider family, and that became really important. So the kids, once again, were the scene setters for all of that, and this is kind of the direction we took from the kids. So that was really important in our family. So it's been wonderful to have this support network outside of my northern kind of family support network, to have this incredible Ngāi Tahu support network. And it's been great to have this Māori view on my European thinking at times. So I'm forever grateful.
What's different about the Māori view?
I think
to your European thinking?
The long-term visionary, to not how we're looking today. And success isn't exactly about how I turn up today, but how is this looking in 1, 5, 10, 50, 100 years. And when you have that long-term vision on things, I think that's incredible to have. So getting better every day rather than kind of just getting better overnight has been great. Been certainly good for me and my family's kind of learning.
I understand that you performed your first haka behind Buck Shelford, who explained the meaning of it to you. What did he teach you about?
Well, he taught me about the strength, talking about the power. One of the things I loved about Buck when he taught us in 1989 it was about kamati at that stage, and about, whilst it was a challenge and getting yourself physically ready for this immense battle that we're about to take. But it was the thing I really got from Buck then and get from him today is the brotherhood that it kind of brought together. And not just the 15 All Blacks that were performing the haka on that particular day, but all the men who had worn that black jersey prior to us. It was also one last chance, Buck used to say to the people around us when we're doing the haka to the opposition, to say, brother, I've got your back. We're together on this battle one last time. And that was really important to me. So I then took strength from that and used it right throughout my career, that it was never 15 All Blacks doing the haka to the opposition. It was 15 All Blacks plus everyone who'd worn the jersey, often everyone inside or every New Zealander in that stadium. And then when this country's connected behind the All Blacks, when we're connected as a nation behind rugby, it's 5-6 million people doing the haka against the opposition. So in my mind, we never lose those odds. 6 million v 15, we're always going to win. And that's why connection becomes really important, or became really important to me when I was performing that haka. Yep, it was a part of the routine leading up to kickoff, but it was that connection piece with the current team, everyone who's worn that jersey before, and New Zealand.
What a beautiful framing of it. I understand that one of your more memorable haka moments was an off-field one in 1996. There was a haka performed by the non-selected players
yes.
to you. Will you tell me that story?
No, it wasn't to me personally, but in 1996, the All Blacks won our first Test series in South Africa. So this was up in Pretoria in the High Veld, second test of a 3-test series. And as we walked off the ground, the non-playing team, so this was a team of 36, led by John Hart, captained by Sean Fitzpatrick. But as we walked off the ground, instigated, I believe, when I look back, up there by Jonah Lomu, Eric Rush was in there, other members of the party did the haka to the team walking off, and that connection was almost overwhelming, that we achieved that incredible feat of the first Test series together. It actually took all 36 of us to do that, not the 15 or 23 people out in the paddock that particular day. So that connection piece, when I look from the ground to the stadium, yeah, that's a beautiful memory, actually. So thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, for sure. I want to come back to this, or focus on this connection piece, because I hear these threads come through over and over again, and it's such a beautiful one that I'm hearing. I'm hearing you say right at the beginning, I don't own the jersey, I'm stewarding it from the previous player to the next player. I'm hearing you saying it's not the 15 of us on the field, it's our connection to every All Black who's come before, as well as connection to the nation when they are behind us. And when I first got to this country and I learned, it took me quite a while to learn my pepeha, because I felt there was some awkwardness of, is it appropriate for me, and what's the way to do this that is respectful, and what's etc. And I finally learned it and did it for a while, and I've gone deeper and deeper in it. And what I've come, and for those listening who are not from this country, a pepeha is a way of greeting in the Maori culture where you don't say, hi, I'm Kyla. You say, I want to share with you, these are my ancestors, and these are my, this is my connection to this mountain, or this is my connection to this river, or whatever. And for Pakeha, for European folks like myself, when we first learn it, often there's a kind of a standard template, right? This is my lake, this is my river, this is my mountain, and often, and guilty, my first pepeha said my river is the Hudson River, which was the river a block away from where I grew up in New York City. And what I came to appreciate was that actually, no, this does not belong here, because in Maori culture, when I say my river is the Hudson, what I'm actually saying is this is my ancestor, and I have a connection to this river that goes much deeper than I happen to grow up near it. And what I've come to appreciate, though, in my mind, the way that I think about pepeha, it's connected to the way that you're describing what was happening when you're doing the haka, which is what I'm saying is you think you're just talking to me, Kyla Colbin, but you're actually talking to all of my ancestors. You're talking to all of my history, all of my people, all of my circumstance, all of my context, everything. And I just happen to be the face of it in this moment right now to this conversation. But that's almost immaterial, because it's the representation of everything else that I am connected to. And that's what I hear from you about the haka and about the jersey and about connection.
Yeah, connections are important, I think, to New Zealand rugby, certainly are to the All Blacks. The legacy of those that have gone before certainly created the All Black teams I've been involved in. I just knew, to me, that the colour of the All Black jersey got darker and darker the more success we had. And that became a real strength, certainly for me. And it was that connection to honour those who'd worn it before, but why I get so much pride when I see people wearing it today. And to me, All Blacks evolution is about, when I hand over my jersey, I'm expecting you or the next person who takes it to be better than me. It's why we want our kids to be better than us. And that's how we evolve, and that's an expectation, which is why, funny thing, in New Zealand rugby, even the greatest of our game will be replaced. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. How we always want to strive to be better, and we expect the next person to be better than me.
How beautiful. What a beautiful place for us to finish on. Ian, it's been such a joy to chat with you. I feel quite moved by this conversation. I am so grateful you've taken the time to chat with me. Thank you.
And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to reflect, and reflections are really important. Not sure I always had it when I was living in the moment all the time, and All Black games back to back, but certainly I know as we've gotten older and we can look back, reflections become really important. Reflections to me become learnings now as well, and that's how I think I'm getting better.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing your learnings so generously.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening. I seriously could listen to Ian all day. He seems like the kind of person anyone would want in their corner, like so kind and encouraging to achieve more than what you thought was possible. I particularly loved the part of the conversation where he talked about connection and how when you perform the haka, it's not just you, it's everyone who's ever worn the jersey. It's the entire nation. It's our 6 million against their 15. And how can you lose with those odds? That bit, it kind of brought tears to my eyes. Grateful as always for your feedback. You can reach me on hello@kylacolbin.com. And of course, if you are enjoying the podcast, please do like, subscribe, follow, hit that notification bell. Tell the algorithm that this is something that you enjoy. It helps us make better podcasts, better episodes, get better guests, and deliver more for you. See you next week. Hunger and Heart is brought to you by the Crusaders Leadership Programme. Whether you're coaching under fives or a professional team, we all want the same thing: to build a culture of trust, to get the best out of your people, and to grow players into leaders. The Crusaders Leadership Program lets you get up close and personal with some of the greatest rugby legends of all time. People like Sir Wayne Smith, Sam Whitelock, Kieran Read. You'll connect with a global group of ambitious, caring coaches from a range of codes and backgrounds. And most importantly, you'll gain skills and techniques to drive impact and outcomes for your team. The Crusaders Leadership Program is a 2-week, high-intensity virtual experience. It is delivered exclusively online, accessible from anywhere. Hunger and Heart listeners get 10% off the full price of the program. Use the code HUNGER at checkout. You can find out more about the Crusaders Leadership Program at crusadersleadership.com. That's crusadersleadership.com. Hunger and Heart is created by BOMA and the entire BOMA team, including Tito Bernal, Ray Jangle, Hannah Hudson, Johanna Coxon, Samuel Unka, and me, Kyla Colbin. Thanks for listening.